Welcome to Geometry. We are going to be going through Chapter 1 first, and there are a lot of definitions and pictures that we need to understand and ways to write some different terms that we'll be using in geometry. So the first ones we're going to go through is a point, a line, plane, collinear points, and coplanar points. And some of these you might already know what they look like, but we're going to focus also on the symbol to use when we are writing our answers. So the first one is a point, and a point has no dimension, and it's represented by a dot, and the symbol is just writing out point A. Next we have a line, and a line has one dimension, and it's represented by a line with two arrows at the end of it. So if you look way over here in the far right, that we have two examples already set up on how to write that. So you use two letters on the line, so 2 points that are on the line, and you're going to draw an arrow above it with two arrows on each end, so one on each end of them. And through any 2 points, there is exactly one line that you can draw through it. Make sure when you draw your picture of your line that you make sure you include these 2 points on your line. Sometimes people forget to write those down. Also, a line is going to extend without end, so it keeps on going in both directions, and that's why on the ends of our symbol that we also really technically draw a little mini line right above those 2 letters. And if you notice, you can interchange which letter goes first. It really doesn't matter. And where this line L comes in is sometimes on the side of a line or a picture, it might have a cursive letter that's off to the side that sometimes we just use the one letter to label it. So next is a plane, and if you see in my picture that I have right here, this blue picture, that it has 2 dimensions, and it's represented by a shape that looks like a floor or a wall, but it still extends without end, but there's no way for us to really put arrows on the ends of our shape like we can with a line. And to label our plane, we can use 3 points that are not on the same line. If you notice that A, B, and C do not create an actual line themselves, that we can use any 3 points on our plane to label it. Sometimes we also see this capital letter that's not represented with a point. It's kind of like our letter L up here. So we could say it's plane M, or we could say it's plane ABC or ACB. It doesn't matter what letter or what order you put those letters in. The next thing that we have are coplanar and collinear points. So collinear points, if you think about it, if they're co means that it shares something, and linear means that it has a line, and points. So we have points that are on the same line. So if you look in our picture right here, there's probably a couple of them. So S, P, and T are collinear points because they share the same line right there. Coplanar points, if you think of the same idea, so co means that they share something, plane, it has a plane, and points. So there are points that are on the same plane. So we could use a point V, an S, a P, we could use a T. We couldn't really put the Q with the V or the Q with the S, but technically the Q and the P are on their own plane because we know that, well, these are only 3 points, but if we had another point down here below it as well, that we would have 3 points that are not, through 3 any points that are not on the same line. Well, technically those are on the same line, but we could have exactly one plane that goes through the different points. So you want to make sure that you actually see your plane, that you can use your points that are coplanar. And we'll talk about more of that in class as well to discuss the difference with what's coplanar and what is just not on the same plane. There also really isn't any way that we're going to be writing symbols for that. You would just make a list of them. So throughout these videos, I will be giving you some questions after I give you some definitions or I work through a problem, and then I would like you to try some. So at this point, I would like you to push pause, and you can copy down the picture, copy down the 2 questions, answer those 2 questions. When you are done answering those 2 questions, then you may push play again, and you can check your answer against mine, and I will talk you through the choices. Alright, so now that you are done, you can check your answers. So one of the things that we can say about this very first one is that 2 other names for line PQ, and PQ is right here. So line PQ, we can switch the letters so we can say it's QP instead, and we could say that it is line N, so if you see this N up here. For plane R, we can use any 3 points that are on plane R, so I think I'm going to use V, S, and T this time. And really you can mix those letters up differently. You could do it as STV or SVT or TVS. There's lots of different variations you can use even within the 3 letters. So your next answer for naming 3 points that are collinear. So collinear means that they need to share the same line. You have 3 points that are on the same line. So since this line right here, there's only 2 points technically on that line as Q and P, that the only other line we have a choice of is our SPT. So we're going to use SPT, that those 3 points are collinear. For our coplanar points, we just need 3 points that are on there, so I think we are going to use T, maybe P, and V, that those 3 points are coplanar. And if you notice, well, we need 4 points, so I'm going to do T, P, S, and V are the only 4 points that are technically coplanar on this picture. But if you notice that 3 of those same letters we use to label the plane. This next section we're going to talk about line segments, segment, endpoint ray, and opposite rays. And the first picture is going to be a segment. In a segment, if you notice that it does not keep on going in both directions like a line does, so it stops at A and it stops at B. It does include everything between those 2 points though. So one way we can label this is it's going to look just like a line, except instead of the 2 arrows at the top, it's going to stop at the ends. So you can see what my symbols are going to look like. So it almost looks like a mini picture of a segment. The points, we can also call these 2 points right here our end points. Next we have is an actual segment, and a segment is going to be the exact same thing as a line segment. I just put that on there separately so you realize that you could hear it as a line segment. You might just hear me say a segment instead. So our endpoints, like we already said up here, is that they are the ends of our segment. And the way that we will label them is just say that it's endpoint A and endpoint B. So next is a ray. An array is a mixture of a segment and a line, so it's half and half. So a ray starts at a certain point, so it has an endpoint, which we're going to call is almost like the starting point. So it has one endpoint, but on the other end of our segment or line is going to be a ray. So it's really like the other half of a line. And this is what your picture will look like. All right, so it has one endpoint and it keeps on going on the other end, so that would be the side on the right-hand side where the arrow is. And the way that we need to label this with our symbols is it's also like a little mini ray. If you notice, I drew a red picture here that is ray BA. So if you notice, I color-coded my responses, and there is a slight difference there because you do need to look at where the endpoint is. So really where it starts, so at the very top of your ray above your 2 letters, that you make it start at the same letter. So it starts at letter A and goes to B with our arrow. It starts at letter A and goes to our B. So the red one starts at letter B and goes through the A. And here it starts at letter B and it goes through the letter A. So next is opposite rays, and that's because you have 2 rays that go in the exact opposite direction, and they need to be on the same line. So we can't have from C to B, we can't have that going at a different angle. It needs, all 3 of them needs to be on the same line first, and then C is the central location, so the center endpoint technically. So from C to B is its own ray, and C to A is its own ray, but together they are opposite rays. So you can see in my picture that I drew also, it starts at letter C and goes through B, it starts at letter C and goes through A, and those are the 2 rays that make up our opposite rays. All right, so it is your chance now, before we go on with one more definition, on practicing these 2 questions. So go ahead, push pause, work them out, and then once you're ready, you can push play again to check your answer. All right, so now that you've worked out your problems, here's your 2 answers for both of these questions. Your answer for the first one is HG, so all we can do is just flip those 2 letters around. There's no other name for that line off to the side, so that's your only answer. Your answers for number 4 are as follows. For all the rays that have an endpoint as J, it starts at J, goes to E, starts at J, goes to G, starts at J and goes to F, starts at J and goes to H. And those are our blue ones down here. So then the next ones, which of these rays are opposite rays? The only ones that those would be our JG and JH as a pair. And then the other pair would have to be JE and JF as a pair. All right, so this last one is an intersection of some different objects. So we have the first one, if you look at your picture, is an intersection of 2 lines, and the intersection is a point. So it's point A is the intersection point. If you have 2 planes that intersect each other, think of the binding on a book. like this line right here is the binding of the book, that the places where all your pages meet each other is a line. So the intersection of two planes is a line. So when you write down the intersection, if it asks where the intersection is, then you say it's at point A for the first one. For the second one, then you would say it's line Q. So next I would like you to practice drawing a picture and just do the best you can. The whole idea is to visualize what you need to describe. So first one is sketch a plane and a line that is in the plane. Next is sketch a plane and a line that does not intersect that plane. And sketch a plane and a line that intersects the plane at one point. So I would like you to try drawing these three, push pause, and then once you're ready to check your answers, you can push play again and check your answers with what I will show you. All right, so here are the three pictures that I have. So here are the three pictures that I have drawn. So the red one is for number 5, the blue is for number 6, the white is for number 7, and something else you might want to write along with this that I'm just going to say is that the red one, what you can think of having a pencil or you draw a line on your desk. So your desk is a rectangular area, it's a plane, your desktop is a plane, and if you have something that is on your desk, it is now on that plane. The blue one is a line that is not on the plane, so what you have to think of is almost the ground. So think of the earth, the ground is a plane, and something that would not be on that plane would maybe be an airplane in the air. So it's on its own level, it's never going to be, well, eventually it will be, but at the time being, if it's flying, it's not going to be on the ground. The white one, think of a piece of paper, and you push a pencil through the piece of paper, that pencil is your line, and the piece of paper is your white plane, that this pencil is now pushed through it. So it's intersecting it only at a point, and that line is not on the plane because we need at least 3 points that are not on the line to be considered a plane. All right, this is a continuation of the ones that I would like you to try. So there's 3 more, and then the picture is over here on the far right of what picture you're going to look at to answer all 3 of these questions. The last thing then is, after I show you the answers of those 3, that there is a challenge question I would like you to think about that we will discuss the following day that I see you in class. So go ahead, push pause, work out the 3 questions, and then check your answers when you're done. All right, now that your answers are done, here are your 3 answers for number 8, 9, and 10. All right, so with this first one, with line K, number 8, the intersection of plane A, so that is this light blue plane, think of a piece of paper lying down, and plane B, and another piece of paper, but it's going through it. So I think of this is like the binding of a book that you have kind of splayed out, where all the pages are opened up. So the part where the 2 pages would intersect would be at the binding, and that would be this line K. So then the next one, number 9, the intersection of PQ. So line PQ is also here on this flat surface. And line K, of where those 2 intersect, is right there is this one point, and that is point M. The name of the intersection of line K, so think of the binding again of this textbook, if it's played out like this. So line K and plane A, well, line K is on plane A, so every single point along that line is going to be an intersection point that they have in common. Think of intersection as something they have in common. So it would be the whole entire line K again. So again, your challenge question to bring to class is, how can a line segment on a plane and another line segment not on the same plane be considered coplanar? So in other words, how can the 2 line segments, even though they're in different locations, how can the 2 line segments be considered on the same plane? So you have to go back and think of, what does it mean to be considered a plane, and what do you need for there to be a plane? So go back to the first couple slides, and there's something that I wrote down that should help you out on this. Good luck. See you tomorrow in class.